Leah Carver did not know which would kill her first, the thirst that turned her tongue to leather or the heat that turned the iron bars into a stove. The cage sat in the middle of Sagebrush Hollow like a warning, right between the mercantile and the land office, where every decent person had to pass. Sheriff Daltrey wanted the whole town to see what happened to a poor woman with no family name and no money. So Leah hung there in plain sight, folded small like a broken thing, while boots scraped the dirt and voices drifted past as if she were already dead. They called her vagrant trash. They said she asked for trouble because she traveled alone. They said her kind ruined honest towns. The men spat near the bars. The women pulled their children close and crossed the street. A boy threw a pebble that hit Leah's cheek, and when she flinched, the boy laughed like he had won something. Leah had done nothing but fight for her life. Two drunk men had grabbed her behind the saloon, one hand on her wrist, the other on her mouth. She had clawed one man's face and kicked the other hard enough to make him curse. Then she ran straight to the sheriff's office, thinking the law would help. Sheriff Daltrey took one look at her torn dress and empty pockets and decided she was the problem. He did not ask questions. He did not listen to her shaken voice. He only said one word like it was a verdict: vagrancy. Then he shoved her into the cage and snapped the lock shut. By the second day, her tears stopped. Tears took water, and water was something the town did not give her. Her lips cracked and bled. Flies circled her face in lazy loops. The sun rose and fell and rose again, and each time it came back, it felt hotter, meaner. Leah's muscles cramped from being folded into a space too small to stand. Her knees stayed pressed to her chest. Her shoulders burned where the bars bit into skin every time she tried to shift. Once a little girl slipped close when no one was looking. She pushed a biscuit through the bars with quick hands. Leah ate it slow, like it might disappear if she rushed. Then the girl's mother spotted her and yanked her away so hard the child stumbled. "Do not touch that filth," the mother hissed. Leah kept the taste of that biscuit in her mouth like a memory of mercy. By the third afternoon, the air shimmered. The town square blurred at the edges. Leah's thoughts started to float away, drifting into faces she missed and days she could barely remember. She saw her mother's eyes the last time she held her hand. She heard her mother's voice, soft and tired, saying, "You are stronger than you think. Do not let the world break you." The world was doing its best. Then the sound of a wagon rolled into the square. At first it was just wheels and hooves, nothing special. Leah kept her head down because hope was a dangerous thing. But then she heard children. 5 voices, bright and curious, talking over each other. Not cruel voices, not mocking, just worried. "Papa, why is she in a cage? Is she hurt? Can we help her?" Leah lifted her head, squinting through the light. A wagon had stopped near the cage. 5 girls sat in the back, close together, dusty from travel, but clean in the way children still can be. Their eyes were fixed on her, not with disgust, with shock. A man climbed down from the driver's seat. He was tall, wide through the shoulders, dressed in worn work clothes and a hat that shaded his face. He walked toward the cage, slow, like he was keeping his temper on a leash. When he crouched at the bars, Leah saw his eyes, dark, steady, tired in a way that looked like grief. He looked at her like she was a person. "How long?" he asked. Leah tried to answer, but her voice came out like dust. She swallowed hard and forced the words. 3 days? His jaw tightened. "They give you water?" "A cup yesterday morning." One of the girls in the wagon leaned forward. "Papa, she's thirsty." The man stood and went to the wagon. He came back with a canteen and pushed it through the bars. "Drink slow," he said. Leah's hands shook so bad she almost dropped it. She drank small sips anyway, because she knew what it felt like to drink too fast when you were dying of thirst. The water slid down her throat like life returning. When she lowered the canteen, she couldn't find words big enough for what it meant. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once, as if thanks were not the point. Then he stood and turned toward the land office. "Wait here," he said. Leah almost laughed. The cage made sure she would. The man pushed into the land office and voices rose. Sheriff Daltrey's voice was sharp, full of authority he hadn't earned. The man's voice stayed low, but it carried like thunder that didn't need to shout. When they stepped back into the square, the sheriff's hand hovered near his gun. "You can't just—" Daltrey snapped. "I asked what her crime was," the man said. "You said vagrancy. I asked when her trial was. You said there wasn't one." Daltrey puffed up like a rooster. "This is my town. And that," the man said, pointing to the cage, "is not the law. That is cruelty." People started to gather. Heads turned. Whispers spread. Daltrey's eyes narrowed. "You threatening me, Jonah Reich?" The name landed on the square like a stone. Even Leah could feel it. This man had a place in the world, a name that meant something. Jonah Reich stepped closer to the sheriff. He did not raise his voice. He did not flinch. "I'm telling you to unlock the cage. Now." For a moment, the sheriff looked like he might draw. Then one of the little girls in the wagon called out again, soft but clear, "Papa." Daltrey glanced at the 5 watching faces. Something like shame flickered across him, or maybe it was fear for being seen for what he was. Either way, he pulled his keys out with a curse. "Fine," he muttered. "She's your problem now." "I'll take that chance," Jonah said. The lock clicked. The cage door screamed as it swung open. Leah tried to move, but her legs betrayed her. Pain shot up her hips. Her knees buckled, and she pitched forward. Jonah caught her before she hit the ground, one arm around her back, the other under her knees, lifting her like she weighed nothing. Leah froze, stunned by the simple fact of being held without harm. Her body remembered hands that grabbed. His hands held. "Easy," he said. "I gotcha." He carried her to the wagon and set her on the tailgate. The girl scooted closer, eyes wide. "She looks like she's gonna faint," one whispered. Jonah draped a blanket over Leah's shoulders, even though the day was hot. "Ruth?" Jonah nodded at the oldest. "Bread." "Emma?" The other canteen. The girls moved quick, like this was normal for 'em, like helping was something they did. Leah took the bread with trembling fingers. "Why?" she managed. Jonah climbed back to the driver's seat. He looked back at her, and for a heartbeat, the sadness in his eyes sharpened into something fierce. "Because it's right," he said. He snapped the reins. The horses pulled. The wagon rolled. Sagebrush Hollow fell behind him, and Leah stared back at the empty cage shrinking in the distance. Sheriff Daltrey stood beside it, red with anger and humiliation. Townsfolk whispered in little nods, shaking heads like Jonah was the criminal. But the wagon kept moving. As the prairie opened around him, the wind cooled Leah's skin, and the tight knot in her chest loosened just enough for her to breathe. The youngest girl, Grace, offered her another piece of bread with both hands, like it was a gift. "You can have mine too," Grace said. "Mama said we share." The word mama hit the wagon like a shadow. The girls went quiet for a second. Then Ruth set her jaw and pulled Grace closer, like she was protecting her from a thought. Leah looked at their faces and understood without being told. 5 girls, 1 father, no mother. She glanced at Jonah's back as he drove, straight and steady, like a man carrying a weight that never left him. She did not know where he was taking her. She did not know what kind of life awaited at the end of this road, but she knew one thing clear as the sky above him. For the first time in 3 days, she was not waiting to die. And somewhere behind him, in a town that hated her, a sheriff who didn't like being defied, was already deciding how to make Jonah Reich pay for breaking that lock. The wagon rolled until the sun began to slide down behind the prairie, turning the sky golden red like a slow burning fire. Leah sat in the back with the blanket around her shoulders, bread in her lap, and 5 pairs of eyes watching her like she was something rare. The youngest girl, Grace, leaned closer again. She had a round face and hair that had escaped its braids. She smelled of dust and warm cloth. "Are you going to die?" Grace asked, as simple as asking the time. Ruth snapped her head around. "Grace!" "What?" Grace said. "She looks sick." Leah swallowed, her throat still raw. "I'm not dying," she said.
though she wasn't fully sure. "I was just thirsty." Grace seemed satisfied. She nodded like a little judge. "Okay, you can stay then." Emma, the second oldest, watched Leia with eyes that missed nothing. "Papa doesn't stop for people," she said quietly, like she was talking to herself. "Not since Mama." Mary, who looked about 9, held a tin cup near Leia's elbow. "If you want more water, just tell me. I'm good at pouring." Quarter, 7, stared like she was memorizing Leia's face, and little Grace kept touching the edge of Leia's blanket as if to make her real. Ruth sat tall, hands folded, trying to be the adult, but Leia saw the way Ruth kept glancing toward Jonah's back, like she was checking if her father was still steady. The road turned rough near dusk. Jonah guided the wagon off the main trail to a small creek tucked between